But they found, as I understand it, I mean, I don't know what's happened in the last day or so, but in Lancaster, they found 2,600 ballots, all done by the same hand. In other words, the same exact penmanship, the same hand, the same everything. It was all done by the same pen, the exact same pen.
The exact same pen, the exact same hand. That everything Donald Trump said there is a lie. In Pennsylvania, up to 2,500 voter registration applications, not ballots, were identified as potentially fraudulent. But of course, facts that never stopped Donald Trump from crying election fraud. And with the election day, of course, coming up very soon, it does look like we're in for many more lies from Trump and other Republicans. In fact, just this morning, Donald Trump Jr. said the following. Watch.
You know what they're going to try to do. We've seen this playbook before, but this time we're prepared. So if we win decisively tomorrow, you don't give them a week to find that magical truck filled with ballots, right? No one knows where they came from, but take back your country, America.
Take it back from magical ballots that are suddenly going to be trucked in. Well, on Steve Bannon's podcast, Tucker Carlson pushed the lie even further.
What I'm really struck by is how virtually every Trump voter I talk to, and maybe even some on the fence voters, says basically the same thing. You know, it's just a question of how much the Democratic Party cheats in this election, which is another way of saying the whole country seems to have accepted the reality that, you know, one of the two big political parties doesn't believe in democracy, is willing to cheat and ignore the will of the population, of the citizenry. That's really dark. As someone who spent, you know, I don't know, something like 15 hours in depositions imposed on me by voting machine companies. And I was never named in any suit by a voting machine company, but they went out of their way to harass me. I think funded by Reid Hoffman, stole all my text messages, leaked them to the New York Times. I'm bitter about it still. But for the last year and a half, the whole, conservative media has been cowed into ignoring what's really obvious, which is we should not have electronic voting machines. They don't work. They're not more efficient. They're not better at counting, and they don't produce the result faster. The only reason to have electronic voting machines is if, you want to subvert them.
Wow. Well, based on the claims from Donald Trump and his lackeys, including Jr. and Tucker Carlson, it seems like the writing is on the wall. If Trump loses this election, if he does anything but win, Donald Trump and his supporters are going to cry foul. And of course, Donald Trump's cronies are going to back it up. And a vast majority of Americans see this stunt coming. A majority of Americans, 70%, according to BBC, expect Trump to reject the result if he loses, according to a CNN SSRS poll released Monday. It's also worth noting that many of Donald Trump's fake electors from 2020 have returned for the 2024 election. Of the 93 Republicans designated as prospective presidential electors for Trump from the 7 battleground states, 8 are facing felony charges for signing false electoral college certificates in 2020, according to a political analysis. Another 5 signed similar certificates in 2020, but were not charged. And at least 6 others played notable roles in challenging the results of the 2020 election or promoting election conspiracy theories. All told, at least 1 in 5 prospective Trump electors from battleground states this year had some connection to the scheme to overturn the 2020 election. To make matters even worse, disinformation is running rampant on social media. Here's an example.
The FBI and the US intelligence officials now saying Russia is behind a fake video now circulating online showing a man who claims to be a Haitian immigrant who says he voted multiple times in Georgia. Again, the video is completely fake.
Man who says he's a Haitian immigrant claims to have voted multiple times in Georgia using multiple IDs.
So across the United States, a lot of election officials, Secretary of States, people who are in charge of elections are racing to try to debunk these fraudulent claims. Here's Pennsylvania's Secretary of the Commonwealth named Al Schmidt. He went on CNN to push back against Trump claims of voter fraud in his state of Pennsylvania.
I was a Republican election commissioner in Philadelphia, elected in 2011 and reelected in 2015 and reelected in 2019. I have investigated hundreds of allegations of voter fraud. And that's why I feel like I can speak with some degree of authority and knowledge about when it occurs and when it doesn't occur, and when it does occur, the extent to which there's evidence of it. And allegations of widespread voter fraud in Pennsylvania are completely and totally unfounded. Voters should have confidence that we will have a free, fair, safe, and secure election in 2024, just as we had in 2020.
But a lot of Americans are now going to face a choice. Do you believe some of these election officials, including Republicans who say that the elections are free and fair and safe, or do you believe Donald Trump and Donald Trump Jr. and Tucker Carlson and some of the other lackeys and minions who seem eager, Jack, to go ahead and promote this nonsense in order to somehow get Donald Trump back in power, even if it means lying about something that hasn't even happened yet? Truckloads of ballots are coming, says Don Jr. and Tucker Carlson. It's absolute nonsense. Jay?
Yeah. So two things that you mentioned that are, one of them is important, the other one is hilarious. So I'll get back to that in a second. But to the core of the issue, you know, all the cases where we had the same handwriting, the registration applications, and a couple other cases in some states. Why we know about them? Because they were caught. Oh, right, that's the system working. They seem to have forgotten that completely. The Democrats are rigging these elections. That's why the Democrats turned over fraudulent applications. Wait, what? So the Democrats and the Republicans caught different people trying to cheat on registration applications, or maybe a couple of instances of ballots. Well, by definition, that's the system working. Okay, then how about the ones that are the hundreds of things out there that are unproven? Okay, well, first of all, some of those, might surprise you, some of those are not malicious. A lot of those are right-wingers who believe everything Tucker Carlson and Donald Trump and every liar in right-wing media tells them. And so they think that there's fraud everywhere. So they're like, oh, my neighbor voted for Kamala Harris. That's obviously fraud. No, that's not fraud. That's just your neighbor voting in a different way than you, right? Oh yeah, what about this? What about that? Oh, she came in voting with a red shirt. I don't know what you're talking about, okay? So my favorite out of all those insane allegations is they got one guy on video. They're like, look at this guy dropping off all these ballots at a voting station. Who is he? Well, good news, they found out who he is. The mailman. Come on, guys. And this is exactly the nonsense horse crap that, or I should say mule crap, that Dinesh D'Souza did. And he put out that stupid movie, 2,000 Mules, and then the distributor of the movie then pulled it back later. So sorry, it was filled with lies. Sorry, stop suing us. Yeah, it was totally a lie, right? So there's no, and then he would do the same stupid trick. He'd be like, look at this, ballots being moved. Yeah, by election workers. They have to count them at some point. That's how it works, right? And half those guys are Republicans. And half the votes that they counted for were Republicans. So, okay, all that is total nonsense by a crybaby, Donald Trump. Spoiled little brat. I don't want to go. I don't care that I lost. Daddy, give me my toy back, right? So, and that leads to the most important number that David read for you guys. That's 70%. 70% of the country thinks that Donald Trump is going to cry after the election if he loses. Cry and cry and cry and never admit that he lost. So some portion of those are Republicans who think, oh, good, that's what we do if we lose. We just cry forever, right? Or good people who genuinely believe, because of the lies that they've been told, that the election was stolen from them and that the Democrats are working with Soros and Chavez to steal all the elections, whatever, okay? So, but remember guys, a big portion of that giant number, 70%, are people who are gonna vote against Donald Trump because they hate his crying. They hate that when he loses an election, he won't leave. So it's a terrible strategy. And every advisor he has had has told Donald Trump, look, in the polling, it shows that when you keep insisting like a lunatic that you won the last election, the overwhelming majority of Americans do not believe you did, and it hurts you because you look ridiculous and insane. He's like, I don't care. I never lose. Daddy told me I never lose. I'm the only winner. Me. Okay, well, then lose the election like a moron, which is exactly what he's doing now. And the last part is the funny part. Did you notice what Tucker Carlson said? He had the conspiracy theory about Reid Hoffman. I don't know who got his text. I don't know how they got his text. I don't know, okay? But he's, oh yeah, this guy got my text. Oh, so those texts were real. Remember in the text, he talked about how much he hated Donald Trump's guts and how he thought he was a malignant force who should be avoided at all costs. So the texts were real, Tucker. But you're out here pretending that you're Donald Trump's best friend? Hilarious. Thank you for the admission. You hate him. There's no bigger actor in media than Tucker Carlson. Tons of right-wing media actually believe the stuff that they say. But Tucker Carlson doesn't believe a word of it, and he just confessed it to you guys while pretending to say all this lunatic stuff and pretending to be in favor of Donald Trump as he costs Donald Trump more and more votes as the election happens. All of a sudden, we're gonna show you one later today, the demon talk and how the demons are attacking. You know what that does? It turns off potential voters to Donald Trump because he doesn't want J.D. Vance to be the presumptive nominee. That's a longer conversation. We'll have it later in the show.
One other thing to sort of watch with all of this is there's already apparently a pressure campaign by the Trump campaign on some members of Congress basically saying, look, no matter what happens on Tuesday night when the votes come in, we don't want you going and supporting, declarations of Kamala Harris wins this state or that state. We don't want you saying anything or else. And I keep thinking, well, what's the or else? I mean, if Donald Trump loses this election, what leverage does he have over sitting members of Congress who say, no, I accept the results? Because Donald Trump is done. So it's sort of an interesting dynamic here that, sure, I can understand why, until every vote is counted, until it's official, and there are going to be voters on the West Coast, and you don't want to cost, House seats on the West Coast by prematurely declaring, oh yeah, the election's over, Donald Trump is lost, Kamala Harris is going to be president. But on the other hand, it's not like Donald Trump has the sort of leverage that he might have had, say, 4 years ago, or certainly 8 years ago, in terms of pressuring members of Congress to go along with this nonsense.
Yeah, David, my only answer to that is that he will lie so many times that he'll get his base to be super angry at the Republican politicians that acknowledge reality. So they're gonna have to battle that base for a long time, even if Trump is gone. And the more Trump lies, the more they believe him, and the more they think that election was stolen, that everything is rigged and nothing is true. So that's an albatross around the Republican Party's neck for a long time. But hey, Democrats, don't get too smug. The establishment is the albatross around your neck and you don't even realize it. So we'll see what happens after the election. But one thing that would be nice is if everyone acknowledged objective reality. And to the Democrats' credit, they generally do that. They might complain, oh, it wasn't our fault, it was Jill Stein, it was the Russians, it was this, it was that. But at the end of the day, they accept the results. But Donald Trump is a unique danger to democracy. He never accepts results if he loses. So that's why people are gonna vote against him, because they think this guy cheats and doesn't really believe in our system of government. And I think they're right. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.